I'm Charlotte. You're watching The Ugly Atheist. And today's episode, I'm just going to kind of doing a lighthearted reaction to some religious memes, as the title suggests. Um, so, without further ado, let's get into these. This one. So, we've got some character talking to Jesus, and he says, "You're telling me you're just going to forgive me after all I've done?" And Jesus says, "Yes." And then they hug, and then the guy is now in heaven and crying. Tears of joy, I imagine. And this meme is both wonderful and disturbing at the same time, because it's wonderful, just the idea of forgiveness of all the things that you've been ashamed of your whole life. And suddenly that's like wiped clean and not held against you. And that can be a liberating and amazing circumstance. But when it comes to Christian doctrine, this is problematic. It's kind of disturbing, because that means that heaven's going to be filled with all of the worst people in the world, and all of the people who are decent, good, kind, kind-hearted, and sacrificing people throughout the world who just happen to not have accepted Christianity. That's what's going to be populating hell, because there's so many people of different religions and cultural parts of the world where they never heard or don't talk about Jesus all that much, if at all. Or they are adhering dogmatically to a religion that is not Christianity. And these are, decent, hardworking people who, will shelter puppies, adopt kids, and they're very generous with their resources. But they'll end up in hell. Your salvation, rather, is not based on your kindness to your fellow humans. It's based on believing a claim on bad evidence. So, this is a double-edged sword on this meme. So I don't know how I feel about that. Let's move on to the next one. This is Dwight, for some reason, from The Office, and it says, "Just follow your heart? Question mark. False. The heart is deceitful above all things. Follow Jesus." Well, what if your heart's telling you to follow Jesus? I don't know how deceitful our hearts are. I know people are led astray by their hearts, like they fall in love as, fall in love with your high school sweetheart or whatever, and then you make bad decisions based on that. You're following your heart, but it led you down a very bad path. Gave you more problems in life than you probably would have had otherwise. Following your heart is not always good, but at the same time, following Jesus, life is too complicated, and there are not enough questions answered in the Bible for what Jesus would have done in all these various complex situations. So at some point, you're just going to have to kind of guess. If your goal is to try to follow what Jesus would do, you're going to end up having to do a lot of guessing, and you're still going to end up having to follow your heart anyway, at the end of it all. So there you go on that one. Here's one. This is a picture of a sand castle on the beach, and below that picture it says, "Atheist logic. This sandcastle came up by chance after millions of years of erosion." This sort of demonstrates a misunderstanding about how life arose, the complexity of life. Chemicals tend to combine based on their inherent chemical properties. So it's not really random at all. It's if you have specific chemicals and you apply energy or heat, or even just have them in proximity with each other, they'll start to combine. But in the early conditions, or the conditions present in early Earth, provided ample energy for these chemicals to combine, like RNA, all the different amino acids combine on their own. So there's no random chance about it. If a sandcastle came up out of nowhere like that, that would go against what science really uh, discusses, or what it teaches, what abiogenesis teaches. It'd go against the laws of physics as well. So yeah, this meme is kind of just uninformed, we'll say. Here's another meme that says, atheism, the belief that there was nothing and nothing happened to nothing, and then nothing magically exploded for no reason, creating everything, and then a bunch of everything magically rearranged itself for no reason whatsoever into self-replicating bits, which then turned into dinosaurs. Wow. So this is definitely straw manning a position. Um, well, not all atheists. So this is not really about atheism. The title shouldn't be atheism. It should be, um, you know, Big Bang cosmology or something, and then abiogenesis. They're mixing a bunch of different genres of science in this one. Not all atheists believe the same things. So if we assume that this isn't just atheism, but, like, let's say this is about early universe cosmology, there was never a point when there was nothing, I guess, because time and space are intricately or inextricably linked. So um, to say that there was a time, or the phrase before the Big Bang doesn't make any sense, because there was no time, and the word before is a temporal sentiment. So there was not a time when there was nothing. And then it did not magically explode. It was just a rapid expansion. It doesn't say, it says for no reason, but there was a reason for it we just don't understand, or I'm not abreast of the latest cosmological theories and hypotheses about that. Creating everything and then a bunch of everything. Okay, this is just getting too ridiculous at this point to really dissect the inanity of these statements. And then it ends with makes perfect sense. I guess if you replace the word atheism on this meme with God, all of this stuff could actually still fit, and still be as exactly as senseless. So anyway, we'll go on to the next one. This one says, their infants shall, this is from Hosea 13:16. There's a verse from Hosea 13:16. It's a pretty violent verse, but it's a picture of a guy studying the Bible, and this verse talks about one of God's commands. Or a prophet, as Hosea is prophesying this, and on the bottom it says, "Wow, God is the best." That's kind of, yeah, that's always been a problem for Christianity, I think, because there's so many violent verses attributed to God and His commands about, attacking and destroying other peoples, completely annihilating, even down to their horses, and but you have to keep the young girls for yourselves. Like, really? I've heard a lot of people try to explain that away, but nothing really justifies that kind of treatment. And it really doesn't paint God as being merciful and loving at all. There's a picture of someone that's supposed to be Jesus, I imagine. He's pointing and saying, "I'm profoundly offended by mega churches. Build me a mega homeless shelter and stop being fake Christians." Yeah, I see the point of this, but I don't know. I think there's a place for mega churches If you mega churches tend to be a place where people who are not particularly dogmatic will congregate at first, because people like being around other people, and if you have a huge mass of people together, that's where a lot of people, that helps. I think mega churches help a lot of people. They give people support structure for problems they're going through in their marriages or in their personal lives, and on their jobs or whatever. So I think mega churches have a pretty solid place in our culture, um, for helping the unchurched, find connections. Um, and the thing about homeless shelters, um, most people who are homeless by choice. Um, there's plenty of shelters. As you know, I live in Los Angeles. There's plenty of shelters here in Los Angeles, and they are. Most homeless people don't want to go to them because, first of all, homeless shelters have a curfew. You have to be in by a certain time, and you have to be drug free when you come in. And most people who are homeless do not like either of those things. They don't want to be in by a certain time, and they don't want to be drug free. Um, and it turns out find themselves homeless by just sheer bad luck, like they lose their job, the perfect storm of things, they get sick, or um, they lose their support structures, financial support, divorces, or all kinds of things could cause somebody to be temporarily homeless. And if a person does not want to be homeless, there are so many programs in place to help them. Somebody who finds themselves in a bad situation, they're usually only homeless for a couple weeks at most, or a month at most, but they're able to get help finding a job, get help with temporary lodging. There's so many programs in place to help these people. So if you build a mega homeless shelter, it's going to be largely empty, or squatters are going to take it over. Um, yeah, so I think for this meme, I'm more in favor of the mega churches. Okay, and I think this is the last meme. This is a guy who is supposedly double minded, I guess. So this is on the top, it says, illogical atheists think they can believe both simultaneously. On the left, it says, I can be moral without God. Therefore, both morality and sin exists. And on the right, it says the atheist thinks sin doesn't exist if you don't believe in God. And then in parentheses, therefore, neither sin nor morality exist. So I think this one comes down to definitions of these words. Um, like on the right, it says sin doesn't exist if you don't believe in God. But if you define sin as just anything that's morally detrimental to your community or yourself, then yeah, you could say sin exists. It's not an affront to any mythological being or anything. Like, it's not like Zeus isn't going to get mad if you do certain misdeeds, but your your local community and family will certainly be upset by it, and you might be hurting yourself. Like if you give into drinking or whatever it is, whatever your vice is, and it's a detriment to yourself and then to those who love you. So in that sense, if you define sin as just that, then yeah, it exists. And then we have on the left, I can be, therefore, both morality and sin exist. I can be moral without God. And again, if you define morality as behaving in ways that are beneficial to yourself and your community, um, then yeah, morality exists, and there are certain behaviors that are pretty universally accepted as good behaviors, and other behaviors that are fairly universally accepted as bad behaviors. Are they always good and bad in every instance? Not necessarily. That's why we often say morality is a subjective and not necessarily objective. But for all practical purposes, we can say it's subjective. I mean, for the most part, like I don't find any fault in somebody saying that morality is objective, even though you can always find an instance where doing a certain behavior that would normally be considered good is considered bad, So yeah, it's just this meme boils down to how you're defining your terms. So anyway, that is my episode for today. I'm Charlotte. You are watching The Ugly Atheist. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and share this show with people that you want to annoy. And I hope to see you next week.